Well, I just spent 38 minutes doing a podcast, only to find out at the end my microphone wasn't plugged in. Oh, God. So, for 10 minutes, I was deciding on doing another podcast because I just had so much piss and vinegar in that episode. Now I'm kind of left in shambles. I mean, oh, I'm going to try. I apologize. Hi, I'm Mark Laporte, and this is Coffee Milk. You know when you just have one of those weeks, and I don't know, it seems like I'm just kind of messing up everything. Started Sunday, I was supposed to teach, and I had set my alarm clock and everything for 7:20 in the morning. I woke up at 8:30, and I got a text message from the director of religious education. She laughed it off because I have never missed a class. I've always made sure that alarm was set, but that was just kind of like the snowball effect to this week. And then when I just finished doing the episode, I was adding in one little part. I went to an article, and then all of a sudden I heard the audio coming from my computer from a video on the website that I was on. I realized that's when my heart sank and realized, oh shit, nothing was plugged in. Oh God, I hate myself for this. Let's see. Well, in that episode, I started out with obviously Rhode Island. Had to do my little Rhode Island rant. So not only do we have our bridge problems from 95 and 195, so that just cripples the entire state right there. Now, our governor he's more focused this week on the EV charging infrastructure for Rhode Island. Mind you, we don't have the power grid for electric vehicles, but hey, let this guy go because we got $22.5 million from the federal government, right? So, we got to spend it on 14 charging stations. That's the only number I've been given. I'm sure it's going to be more. I hope it's going to be more. But this is the state of Rhode Island, and this could be it's a 5-year, they're giving us the money over 5 years. So this could be a 5-year project to put in the 14 stations for $22 million when me and like 4 other guys, 12 cases of beer, a backhoe, we could get this thing done in a weekend. State of Rhode Island, though, you know how it is. You complain about a pothole on your street, it takes 6 months, where you could have just gone out there, put a bag of asphalt down, stamped it down, got it done in 37 minutes. I don't understand the need for government in everything. We just got to stop. But this is his focus right now. So in 3 months, we put 2 charging stations in. I believe they built gas stations in 3 months, and those suckers now have like 4 or 5 charging stations for Teslas. I don't know if Tesla, I would assume the charging stations are the same, but I'm not 100% on that. Well, I know you can plug in 220, so yeah, no, everything's got to be the same, or they have the adapters. I remember seeing that, and my buddy had a Tesla. Regardless, God only knows what that cost. It took 3 months. Now they're on phase 2 of the project. We got 2 in. So now we're on phase 2 of the project in the state of Rhode Island, and that is a survey from the residents of Rhode Island. How about you just ask them, hey, should we use $22 million for 14 charging stations, or we should put it to something else? It's like, hey, let's just use that money for just anything else. Just tell the government, yeah, we did it. Nobody's going to check because nobody inspects anything in the government. That's the beautiful thing about governmental incompetence at this level. So, we got 2. The 2's at some weird parking lot. It might be I don't think it's the train station parking lot or one of the routes on a train station. So I think it's just for the park and ride, the buses. Oh, it is. It's the Ashway Park and Ride. I should have remembered that. So yeah, they finished that in February. That was phase 1. I think they're going to put 2 others on 117 Park and Ride in Warwick. You know where that is. If you're from Rhode Island. If not, you just go down the road a bit and you take a left at the old Elmax. It's right over there. It's right across the street. That was a joke. I can hear my mom laughing from that right now. So, yeah, you have until May, if you're a resident of Rhode Island, to voice your opinion on these things. And please let them know how you really feel. Now, in other levels of gross incompetence, we have the city of Chicago. Now, I know I actually read about this in 2009. Let me set the stage. 2007, 2008, we have a financial crash based on mortgages. Everybody and their brother had 2 or 3 houses. They were way over their head, but because the market was so good, you could buy a house and pretty much sell it in a couple of weeks for 10, 15, 20% profit. The times were crazy, but everybody had a house regardless of your income because they were just giving mortgages away. And that evidently causes a collapse because we loaned money to people that weren't supposed to be given this much money. I give you Chicago. They had their pension funds obviously heavily invested in mortgage-backed securities, so they lost their asses in this. So they're down a lot of money. They either need to, A, raise taxes or find things in Chicago that they could potentially sell. So clearly they don't want to raise taxes because they want to keep their job, so they sell things. What do they have, you say? They had 36,500 parking meters. So they sold that, or the rights to those meters, for 75 years. So any revenue generated from those parking meters for the next 75 years from 2008 on were the property of these private investors from as far as Abu Dhabi. Freaking hilarious. They sold a 75-year lease for $1.1 billion because evidently people in the government assumed there's no way they would have gotten $1.1 billion in 75 years from the parking meters. So here we are 15 years later, 2024. The last report was from 2022, and the private firm that owns it, they cleverly created a corporation called the Chicago Parking Meters, LLC. They've earned back their $1.16 billion in 15 years. They've also gained an additional $500 million. Now, this deal was also so bad for the city of Chicago, where if any of those meters was blocked or taken out of service for any reason, the city of Chicago had to reimburse that company the money that would have been generated that day. Last year, they had to fork over a check for $67 million. That sucks. So they're just going to be beholden to them for the next 60 years. Think about that. That's a generation. 60 years. That might be I don't know how they do generations. But that's one person's near lifetime. Well, in Chicago, it's probably a really long life. They did that with a couple other things, too. They sold the Skyway, which is a highway that has tolls on it. Yeah, they're losing money from that, too. Or they're at least not generating any new revenue. So the only way you can possibly generate revenue in the city of Chicago is to just raise taxes, because anything else that was revenue generating, they sold off. Mind-boggling. Who did the math on that? Because they all should be fired. This was 15 years ago, so they spent their time in. They're on a pension. They're not living in Chicago anymore. Those people don't care that they gave you a bad deal. They're just grateful that you kept on voting them in. I don't know, 13 people caused a catastrophic meltdown of Chicago's finances. So that's Chicago's shit show. Now, we have California. Prices of the houses are crazy. The taxes are insane. You can't afford to live there. A few years ago, they introduced something where if you were a first-time home buyer, you could potentially put in an application for a first-time home buyer program with the state where they would give you 20% of the mortgage as a loan at zero interest forever. You didn't even have to pay the loan back unless you would refinance the home or sell the home, at which point you had to pay the loan back plus 20% of the value of the future value of the house. So the difference. So if it was like $500,000 and then 20 years later you sell it at $750,000, you pay 20% of the $250,000. That's not bad, considering when you take out a mortgage for the full amount or 80%, you're essentially paying 3 times what the mortgage actually was over the 30 years anyway. So this was a great way to get first-time home buyers into homes. Now, mind you, the median home price in California is $893,000. I don't even know what. No wonder why they have a crazy minimum wage. We'll get to that one in a little bit because California tops the cake again. Assembly Bill 1840 essentially grants illegal immigrants the right to this money. So instead of the crazy homeless population they have or figuring out anything with that, they own 50%. They have 51% of the homeless population in America, all in California. That's outstanding. And then you have people leaving in droves for other states because it's just unaffordable. So no, they want to give people who enter the country illegally who are essentially criminals, the opportunity to buy a house in California. Not the residents of California, not the citizens of the United States of America. No. They want to give it to people who enter the country illegally. Make it make sense, because I swear to God, I'm living in the damn Twilight Zone. I feel I couldn't make this shit up. The Simpsons couldn't make this shit up. I don't believe I have some faith in California's government. Not much, but some. I really feel that they're going to see through this and be like, call it for what it is, which is just grandstanding and bullshit. Because if I were a resident of California, I would vote this Assemblyman Joaquim Arambula, who introduced this ludicrous bill, out. Because that's insanity. You're using state funds, taxpayer money, to benefit people who enter the country illegally. We're already the world's melting pot. Everyone says this is a racist country. Well, we do a pretty damn shit job of it if we're racist, because, we are a insane melting pot. We have a more diverse population than any country on this planet. How about we just help out Americans first? I don't understand what's going on in government today, where we're catering to everybody else but the people who actually live in this country. And I just can't believe we're at where we're at anymore. Everyone's like, no, you're wrong. It's great. And I said, really? Name me, 3 things, because I'm seeing high gas prices, high food costs, high electric costs. People are working more jobs now than ever. They're like, oh, unemployment's great. Yeah, it's because people are now working more jobs, and they're not even getting the same standard of living as they had 4 years ago. Fucking nuts. But keep voting them in, and we're just going to be in this shit show forever. I know I ranted about this for another 10 minutes. I had some really good jokes in there. I'm so upset that I saw it go, but I didn't plug it in. You ever really have those days? I'm asking you. I need something, because I'm just worn out at every possible end. Work, this weekend, it's exciting, but we've done a lot of work to prepare for confirmation, and I'm one of my student sponsors. I teach CCD at my local church, and I'm one of the sponsors, and we've just done a lot to get here. And also I teach second grade too, early in the morning on a Sunday, and it's just been one of those weeks, and I can't get my head out of my ass. I'm trying. I know there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel. You can't put in a lot of work into something and not reap some sort of reward. Side note, little hack I found. It's not really a hack, and everyone else is probably going to be like, yeah, no shit. But Google's coming out with their March update, so if you have a content site, beware and, monitor. Let me know how it goes. I think it's going to be an absolute crater for a lot of people. But I know Reddit will get a hell of a boost, because Reddit, remember, has that deal with Google for $60 million for all their data. That's a fantastic deal. For both parties, I think it's a little light on the data portion. I would ask for 100, maybe 150, and I think Google would have paid that shit. My buddy and I, we do review videos on, he's got his own YouTube channel, but he did something for a cat litter box, a review on a cat litter box, or a self-cleaning cat litter box. It was a pretty good video. It didn't have a lot of views, but he created his own subreddit, and then he put the article, he kind of created an article from his transcript from the YouTube video he created, and he put that in his subreddit with a link to his YouTube video, a link to the Amazon, and then a little verbiage of his review. Now, I don't know, but 4 days after that, Google had his video as kind of like the first video when people would do a search for that product. Now, I know Google had really pushed Reddit hard during these last few updates, where they're just the top source of all information. Regardless if it's right or wrong, they're just going to be the first search result, and it's kind of bullshit. But I thought that was an interesting hack, so I actually just created my own subreddit, or 2 different subreddits, because I really figured I should have one for the Coffee Milk Podcast. Because if this is kind of a cool little hack, it would just be a great way to kind of cheat the algorithm a little bit and maybe get you higher up. Because if Reddit's going to be first, then chances are if the Reddit post is about your thing, then your website should essentially be second. So top 3, that's what I go for in anything. But I figured I would share that as my cool tip of the day if you have a YouTube channel or if you do reviews or something. Write about it in Reddit. Put a link to the video. Obviously, do it if your community allows it, and if not, then create your own subreddit and put it in there. Can't hurt. Google's gonna have some sort of trace back to it. I can guarantee it. If they own the data now, then yeah, they're gonna be using the data. Sorry, my mind is just totally not working. It's 2:30 in the morning, and there's no way I'm gonna edit it. I gotta be up in about 6 hours for work. So I'm sorry. I didn't want to skip a week, but I didn't have time to do anything this weekend. Man, that other podcast, you ever do something, you're just so bummed that just, I don't know, say you're painting or doing something, you just make one fuck up and it just ruins the whole thing. That's how I feel, but I did not want to do this podcast tomorrow and edit it for Thursday and then do one for Friday because I just wouldn't have the energy or the talking points. Now, I know I have a lot of stuff on AI. I kind of did a nice spiel on that, but my takeaway points for that, because I'm going to bed soon. I'm sorry. I'm just tired. What I want to say is Alibaba, the Chinese company that's kind of like Amazon, they've come out with their own AI tool called Emo. And this thing is, I'd say, next to Sora level news. What it does is it syncs lips to whatever song you input and the picture input. I don't believe it was text input as a picture, like it wouldn't generate the picture and then take the audio and do everything. It's just you insert the picture, insert the audio, and it'll sync up the facial expressions to what's being played. It could be a speech, it could be a song, anything like that. Now I'm watching all of this. I'm watching one of Audrey Hepburn. It's just a black and white picture of her. It might be Breakfast at Tiffany's or whatever. Mom's probably yelling at me. She was never in Breakfast at Tiffany's. I don't know, Mom. I'm sorry. She's got a crown and like this beautiful necklace on. It's just black and white. But she was singing a beautiful song. Facial expressions and everything. Raised eyebrows. It looked legit. Did the same thing with the Mona Lisa. Freaking hilarious. Then the fascinating one was the new Sora girl. Sora, the video model I was talking about, was one young female Asian woman walking down the street of New York, I believe, maybe Japan or whatever, some Asian country. And they gave one of her singing with the glasses on, everything, the facial expressions, the raised eyebrows, at the right inflection points of the song, which was absolutely wild that it can now interpret facial expressions and sort of the emotions. I don't want to say it interpreted the emotions behind it, but it somehow has to interpret what emotion maybe somebody would feel at that point that they're singing and then express it on their face, because it is absolutely mind-boggling. This is deep fake level shit. Now, in the Mona Lisa, I could see some differences. I say if you play with AI, you can usually tell AI, but if you've never done it, oh yeah, you'll have no freaking idea. You'll just be like, wow, somebody's really good at their job. Nope, just a quick input of some words and there you go. You got a whole video. They can do different language and portrait style too. They can do Mandarin, Japanese, Korean, Cantonese. One big one. Now, I really went into a spiel, and I'm telling you, I'm slurring my words. It's not going well. It's 2:45. Google DeepMind, and they announced Genie, which conjures up playable games through just an image. Now, when you see it, most of the games it's very Nintendo-esque, just that kind of like 8-bit version. But they made the character, they figured out what the character was. They made the ability to move and jump, and some of them shoot. It's still in early testing phase, but what I've seen through the videos is amazing. And obviously, no code needed. You just simply give it a prompt and give it a picture, and it'll do the whole thing. You can do things like that in ChatGPT. It is a rather extensive process, and it wouldn't be maybe near the results of Google DeepMind right now. But I feel that that's where it's all coming to. Elon Musk might have had it right when he was talking about X being like an everything platform. And that's what I feel people are trying to achieve just with AI, just an everything platform. Because you got your Mid-Journeys that create the pictures, but then you get introduced to Sora later on, and then Mid-Journey is like, well, no, we're going to get to video too, and it will probably be beyond that level, and then they're going to compete. And then, oh, well, who's coming up with music? You have Meta doing text to audio where you can get forest sounds, or Adobe's coming out with their generative AI for music. They announced that at their Hot Pod Summit. But they're doing very similar things to, Soma, which is also a text-to-music generator and produces great songs. They came out with their version 3 just a couple of days ago, and it is 10 times better than the music it was producing last month. It is outstanding how fast everything is growing. You assume at least a couple of quarters. You don't expect, hey, you're going to get Soma version 2 like last quarter, and then, hey, this quarter we got version 3, and it's light years ahead, and hey, next June we're going to have everything. I don't know what the hell's going to happen next. I'm excited. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. This is what happens when it gets late. It crushed me when I got to the end of the podcast, 38 minutes, and I have nothing to show for it. Listen to the audio. It barely picked me up, so I know when I try to enhance that, it's just all going to be gone. I'll see if I can recoup some sound bites. I highly doubt it from what I heard. So I guess I'm going to be saving all this AI news for next time. Or actually 3 days from now. And hopefully I got a lot better news for the state of Rhode Island. Again, we're awesome people. We're hard. We're blunt. You know, we'll tell you to your face, go fuck yourself. But that just means we really like you. That's not, hey, we hate you. Yeah, I think that was a good spot to end it. So that's it for this week's episode of Coffee Milk. I'm Mark Laporte. Thanks for listening.